My name is Elizabeth Yang, and I am a divorce attorney in sunny Southern California. In February 2020, when the COVID-19 quarantine was lifted in China, more than 300 couples rushed to the courthouse to get divorced. The divorce rate spiked so high that in some cities, staff members didn't even have time to drink water because the lines of couples waiting to file for divorce was so long. Government offices had a tremendous amount of backlog due to the record high numbers of divorce filings continuing into March and April of 2020, and couples are even having to make reservations an entire month in advance before they can get a divorce. When the COVID-19 virus hit China in late January, it was just on the eve of the Chinese New Year festivities, so couples in many cities had to endure an additional 2 months with each other, trapped under the same roof, sometimes with extended family. This was too much for many couples. The more time they spent together, the more they hated each other. Now, fast forward 2 months, and the US is seeing the same trends as China. Divorce attorneys have seen an uptick in inquiries ever since the quarantine was put into place. Living in confined quarters has put a strain on marriages. Couples are realizing that they either really get along with each other or they can't stand each other. Other reasons contributing to the increase in divorce inquiries include financial pressures due to skyrocketing unemployment numbers, added stress from fear of the coronavirus, and the unpredictability of our future economy. On top of that, demanding children who are now staying at home 24/7 due to school closures. The US unemployment rate is at an all-time high at 14.7%. This is the highest since the Depression era. Not being able to manage their stress and even just spending too much time alone with one person in isolation is making many couples very easy to irritate. People need space, not even just couples, everybody does. At our law firm alone, we're getting on average a dozen calls every day from new clients inquiring about the divorce process. The US courts are closed right now for regular court hearings and only open for emergency hearings like domestic violence cases, which are also on the rise. Couples can still file their divorce petitions electronically, but they won't be able to see a judge until the courts reopen next month in June or even later. For couples that have filed or are planning on filing after the courts reopen, can you imagine how it's like to live under the same roof as them right now? Just imagine two people who don't get along having to share the same kitchen, share the same TV, try to agree on what Netflix show to watch. It's a nightmare, as you can imagine. Our firm is getting calls and inquiries at all hours of the day and night, many in the middle of the night, with folks calling in to complain and get advice on what to do with their spouse, who is driving them to insanity with every passing day. People say absence makes the heart grow fonder, so apparently too much presence during this quarantine makes the heart less fonder. With this newfound reality, the question is, how do we get through this? What can couples do to not kill each other during this pandemic and save their marriages? Well, as someone who has gone through divorce myself and is now in a happy and healthy 10-year relationship, I have 3 ideas from personal experience that I would love to share with you. One of the things couples can do during this time to strengthen and deepen their relationship without having to even leave their home is to figure out what their love language is. There is a free 10-minute quiz at 5lovelanguages.com for anyone to take, and after taking the simple quiz, couples will be able to discover what their top love language or top love languages are. The 5 top love languages are words of acknowledgement, physical touch, spending quality time together, performing acts of services for one another, and giving and receiving gifts. Each person is individual in their own way and prefer to be loved predominantly in 1 or 2 of these languages. For example, my top love language is acts of services. I feel very loved when my husband does things for me, like cook for me, change the light bulbs in the house, and take out the trash. Before taking this quiz, I did not even know what his love language was. And I found out afterwards that his top love language is words of acknowledgement. I used to be very bad at verbally acknowledging him. I would do things for him in an effort to demonstrate my love because acts of services was my love language, the things that I was doing for him, he wasn't feeling loved with my acts of services. After learning that my husband's love language is words of acknowledgement, I now have a habit of taking just 1 minute every night before we go to sleep to acknowledge him for 3 things that he did that day. It could be anything as simple as, honey, I acknowledge you for taking out the trash. Thank you for cooking for me. Or even just, honey, I acknowledge you for taking a shower today. My husband has told me that just hearing those simple words of acknowledgement is more meaningful to him than all the acts of services I do for him. You can see from my example how important it is to not only know your own love language, but more importantly, to know what your partner's love language is. This quiz is even available for children. I learned that my son's top love language is physical touch, so I make sure to give him plenty of hugs and kisses every day. My daughter's top love language is quality time, not just spending time together, but spending quality time. So I make sure we have plenty of mother-daughter activities to do together to satisfy her love language need. Speaking of quality time, here's another exercise that couples can do to strengthen their relationship during this pandemic and avoid filing for divorce when the quarantine is lifted. I purchased these packs on Amazon, and there's different names for it. The one I purchased was called Our Moments. They're these cards that's available for couples, families, and even for kids. And they're basically conversation starters for great relationships. So rather than just watch Netflix all day long, my husband and I will sit down and we will each pick out 5 cards or so from the deck for the other to answer. Some of the questions from the deck include, what do you most look forward to about getting old? If money was no object, where would you like to live? What makes you angrier than it should? What time of day is the best time to have sex? The list goes on and on. Many of these topics are usually not brought up in a regular meal conversation or even at a bedtime conversation, so these conversation starters allow couples to communicate about deeper topics than they usually would. In other words, it increases their emotional bank account. What is an emotional bank account, some of you may be asking? Well, an emotional bank account measures the health of your relationship rather than your financial situation. Whenever you do something that makes your partner feel loved, you're making a bank deposit and your account balance goes up. Whenever you do something to make your partner upset, such as letting your ego take over and wanting to be right, then you're making a bank withdrawal and your account balance goes down. If your emotional bank account balance is very high, then it's okay once in a while to make a withdrawal and pick a fight with your partner because you've saved up for this rainy day and your relationship is really healthy. However, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and your emotional bank account balance is near zero, sometimes falling below zero, and you have to pay a bounce check fee, then a simple withdrawal could take your marriage to divorce. Just like in finances, it is important to have savings to maintain a strong and healthy relationship with your partner. Showing your love with the 5 love languages, using decks like Our Moments, and just having a very strong emotional bank account are all these ways to sustain your relationship and enjoy each other during the pandemic. So now that you know how to survive a pandemic and grow your relationship even stronger during this challenging time, go out and actually do it. Take action. Don't be one of the statistics that's added to this increasing divorce rate after the pandemic is over. And you know the divorce rate is only going to keep going up.